most people might think I tell a story about bikes, but this is going to be a story about a car. This was really my first car. It was a VW Bug. And, well, the car that I had before that one, my father had bought it. I was in high school. It was a big white Cadillac boat that was about 20 years old. And I was really embarrassed. I didn't want to drive that car to high school. So I bought myself a VW Bug. So it was the first vehicle I bought. And I had this car for about 3 years. So it's a story about serendipity, or perhaps, I don't know whether you call it serendipity, or you call it karma, or you call it having a relationship with a material object. But this VW and I, we ended up in a little bit of a relationship, really. And you'll see as I go through the story why this is so. You know, or you say, why does certain things happen in the universe? Did I bring it on? Did the car help me? I don't know. So, before I get into, there's a couple things that happened along the way with this car. Number one, my dad forgave me for not really appreciating the white Cadillac that he had bought. And he worked on cars. He knew how to work on cars. So, the VW, it did break down, but almost all the time, I would get it in the driveway, and then it would break down so that he could fix the car for me. And he helped me paint the car. It was brown. It was about a 1972. I was trying to remember what year it was. But and I think most people here might know that the VW Bugs had the engine in the back of the car. So, unlike most vehicles, but he could tinker with it and figure out most things. So we painted it. It was an ugly brown. We painted it blue. It had a little bit of metallic in it, and I drove it. My senior year in high school was when I first started driving it. So I had a summer job that summer, and one time the car broke down on the LA freeway, somewhere north of Los Angeles and south of the Malibu Parkway. I had a job up there. I got 1 day off a week from the summer camp. I was driving back to Long Beach where we lived, and it breaks down literally on the freeway. No cell phones back then. This was the 70s. I don't even remember how I got to a payphone somewhere, but I somehow got the car off the side of the road. The accelerator had stopped working. I couldn't go anywhere. So I called my dad and he said, "You are on your own, Beth. I am not coming up there to help you this time. You'll have to figure it out." And I called my brother and he kind of gave me a few tips, but he couldn't come and help me either. So I think I called the AAA. I called the tow truck. The tow truck comes and the guy says, "Well, there's really not much I can do for you except for tie this string on the accelerator from the back of the car, and you can use the accelerator by pulling this string and you'll be able to get home." And I was 19 or 18 and I said, "Okay, I want to get home." I didn't have a lot of money, so I drove home with this little string pulling it, except we were making good progress. I stayed out of the fast lane. I got home. Dad fixed the car for me. So then I went off to college. I had a summer job. This was in San Diego. So it was probably my first summer in San Diego. I had a job at the aquatic center. So I also had a boyfriend. Not my first boyfriend, but turned out the car was way more reliable than the boyfriend in the end. So we hadn't even gone out the night before. Milt was his name. We woke up in the morning and the VW was gone from my apartment that I was staying in for the summer. And I was really devastated because I knew that VW Bugs ended up in the chop shop. I figured I was never going to see my car again. And I called the police and they came out and they took a report. I couldn't find the keys to the car, and then I thought, oh my God, I left the keys in the car, it's my fault. And so they wrote up the report. Milt, I dropped him off at work. Milt needed to get new tires on his Volvo that he had. But he had to be at work. He said, well, I'll go get the tires on your car for you. So I took my credit card and I drove his car to the tire place. Now, I'd never been to the tire place he told me to go. He gave me directions. He told me where to go. We didn't have GPS units. I didn't have a map in the car. And I got really lost, incredibly lost. I had no idea where I was. Driving on this little back road, trying to get back to whatever street it was I was supposed to be on. And I drive by a blue VW. I was like, oh my God, that's my car. And I knew it was my car because my dad and I had painted it. And it wasn't that good a paint job. And the neighborhood, didn't look like such a good neighborhood. So I drove around the block, I came by again, I was like, yeah, that's my car, that's my VW. So I went up to a corner store and I called the police and I said, I found my car. And they said, what? And I said, well, yeah, I lost and I found my car. And they're like, are you sure you weren't out late last night drinking? It's like, no, I wasn't, honest to God. And he said, so tell me again, lady, what happened? I said, well, I reported my car stolen, but I got lost because I was going to get the tires for my boyfriend's car. And he was like, yeah, sure. I said, well, I don't really want to get in the car or look at it because I don't know if there's going to be a dead body in there or if whoever stole it lives in the house and they're going to come out with a gun asking me what I'm doing with the car. So the police came out. We got the car. Turned out it had been hot wired, so I was very relieved. Turns out the keys were in the house, but I was just such a wreck that the car had been stolen. So later in the afternoon, I go and get the tires for Milt. I buy the tires. He comes, he picks me up. We hot wired the car so I can drive it home before we get it fixed. And I was just so glad to have that car back, but I always have thought, like, it's just so interesting. And it turns out that the tire place was 7 miles from where I was supposed to be. And I had literally never been on this road before. So Milt was a big help. And when I say it turns out the car was more reliable than Milt, I ended up buying those tires for his car. He never paid me back. And about a week later, he dropped me for somebody else who was rowing at the aquatic center. So at least the car stood by me, and I had the car for another year, and that's my story about my relationship with a VW bug.